Welcome to the A Monday Moment with Dr. Mal podcast, where each week I, Dr. Mal, share life lessons and motivation to kickstart your Monday. Whether you're starting your day or winding down, join me or me and my future guest for a burst of positivity and a fresh perspective. Let's make Mondays meaningful together.
Greetings and happy Monday, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mallory D. McCoy, and welcome to this week's episode of A Monday Moment with Dr. Mal. As always, may this broadcast bring you what you need in the present moment. May my light exude positivity and kindness, and may my love be extended to all who could use a little extra. Ashe. Let's seize the moment. This week's topic is leaving America without bringing its trauma. And this episode has been sitting with me for a while now because I knew I couldn't rush it. And with the current suppression of freedoms happening in real time in America, alongside people considering leaving their land of origin, America, because of that, I now understand why. Here I am in Mexico, not primarily affected by what's happening because I'm not physically in that energy right now, but that doesn't mean I don't feel what's happening and that I don't feel it secondhand. It's like a trauma you've compartmentalized and then it resurfaces because someone else is living through it. That's the thing about being an empath. When you feel it, I feel it, even when I'm not directly impacted. So while I'm exercising this freedom that is currently afforded to me, I want you to know that this episode is rooted in that energy. I will never be silenced. I speak not only just for myself, but for my son's generation and for the generations before me who didn't get to say what they needed to say. My ancestors are on my back. I know I'm divinely guided and protected by my ancestors because they want my voice to be the voice they didn't get to have. So with that being said, let's get to it. Now, I've only been living internationally for a few months since the end of November 2025, but I can already tell you this. Living internationally hasn't just shifted my location, it's dismantled the way I think, the way I move, and the assumptions I didn't even realize I was carrying. And today, I want to talk about what it really means to leave America without bringing the trauma experienced with you. And not just the political trauma and not just the racial trauma, but cultural defaults, entitlement, comfort addiction, and survival patterns we've normalized. Essentially, the indoctrination that we all have, whether it's good for us or not. Now, let me be very clear here because nuance matters. America, despite everything happening right now, is still my home. I love Mexico deeply and I have Mexican heritage. Mi antepasados son de Mexico and mi sangre es mexicana. But in this moment, my passport is American. So this is not about bashing my country of origin or pretending Mexico is perfect. It isn't. No country is. What I am addressing here is the unlearning that becomes necessary when you step into someone else's world. This isn't about abandoning who you are. It's about discerning what no longer serves you and what never belonged to you in the first place. One of the first lessons living internationally will teach you is this. Flexibility is not optional. It's the entry fee. You cannot expect another country's customs, infrastructure, or culture to mirror the one that makes you comfortable. That should be a given, but I'm surprised at how often it isn't. So, for example, Here in Mexico, the sewage system is different. It is a commonly accepted practice not to flush toilet paper down the toilet. There are trash cans next to every toilet, and that's where what you use goes. In the public restrooms, there are signs reminding you of this, and some public restrooms even charge a small fee because someone is always responsible for maintaining them because of this. And the ones that aren't maintained might not even have toilet paper to begin with. Ask me how I know. Now, I'll be honest, this has taken some getting used to, especially being at home. And I've adapted mostly. I still clog the toilet here and there. I'm also still getting used to hot water not coming out of the sinks. In the 3 Airbnbs I've been in, only one has had hot water coming out of the sink, and that was intentional because they hooked a hot water heater up to the sink. My point is, the system is not wrong. It's just not American. And if your nervous system needs everything to function exactly the way it does from your country of origin, mine is America, then living internationally might not be the healing fantasy you think it is. Because the moment you move into someone else's space, you are the guest. I'm a guest here. The goal is not for culture to adjust to you. The goal is for you to learn to exist within the culture that already exists. That means respecting customs. That means not assuming people know your cultural references. That means not expecting accommodation to your language or lifestyle. And that means not arriving with the belief that the way you've always done it is the right way. Now, I want to pause and say this clearly. I'm not talking about erasing your own culture. Before I came to Merida, I intentionally sought out Black social groups and spaces of belonging. I show up, I participate, and I gather in community. Integration is not assimilation. What I'm saying is living internationally is not about recreating America somewhere else, but it's also not about disappearing yourself. It's about letting the place you're in expand you. And this is where food becomes symbolic. I'm in a few expat groups on WhatsApp, and someone recently asked where to find Velveeta cheese. I think it was over the holiday. And if you know anything about Mexico, Velveeta cheese is not something that is a part of their culture. In fact, what I love about Mexico is that their food is not overprocessed, and you're going to get a lot of fresh, low processed, clean food here. So, someone asking that made me ask an even deeper question. Why do we come to places where the food is, in fact, cleaner, fresher, and less processed just to go search for the very things that harm us? Because Velveeta cheese is not healthy in any sense. Along these same lines, there's been a buzz about Popeye's opening in Merida. In fact, it just opened here. Now, y'all know I don't eat meat anyway, but I'll be honest, when I first landed in Mexico, I absolutely got my son and I some McDonald's fries. We had been on the plane for almost 3 hours. My son, who is autistic, was overwhelmed, and desperate times called for desperate measures. But that moment wasn't about clinging to comfort. It was about transition because McDonald's was the only thing that I was able to recognize in the time frame that I had. What I'm talking about here is different. These conversations are happening among people who have already been here, people who are surrounded by the healing energy that the Yucatan brings, but are still tethered to what hurt them. And that's when it clicked for me. For a lot of us, comfort has been mistaken for nourishment. Sometimes we hold on to what's familiar, not because it's good for us, but because the hurt is familiar. I just talked about this on another podcast. And part of dismantling American thinking is asking ourselves why familiarity feels safer than health. and why we resist letting our bodies detox physically and energetically when we leave. Sometimes what feels uncomfortable isn't danger, it's withdrawal. And so there's one more layer that I need to name here, especially with what's happening in the States. White supremacy is not unique to the United States. And the white people in the United States aren't the only ones who benefit from white supremacy. White supremacy is a global thing. What changes from place to place is how it shows up. I can only speak for Mexico because this is where I'm at right now. Here, race is rarely spoken aloud. Most people are visibly Mexican, so my son and I stand out, but we're usually just asked like what country we're from. But I've noticed that classism rooted in colorism here is deeply visible. For example, darker skinned Mexicans are far more likely to hold service jobs, and fair skinned Mexicans often live very different lives and are plastered on everything. And yes, fair skin benefits from white supremacy here too. The structure exists, it's just quieter. Like I said, race hasn't been mentioned to me once, but class is written all over people's realities. And what's been profound for me personally is this. In America, I lived my entire life navigating being Black and being a woman at the same time, the intersectionality of it all. But here in Mexico, so far, I've been able to relax the idea of being Black. I haven't been able to relax being a woman. That still requires awareness, but the racial hypervigilance I carried in my body in the United States, that layer has softened. That doesn't mean oppression disappears. It just means the pressure has shifted. And that distinction matters. Leaving America without bringing its trauma doesn't mean pretending systems don't exist. It means refusing to live inside the version of them that broke you. So, with that, let's talk about the Black expat community because this part also deserves nuance. There are some incredible Black expat groups here in Merida. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I chose this area, is because I knew that it was not only safe and family friendly, but the largest groups of Black expats are being represented here in Merida. And their intentions are so solid. One offers a highly engaging social calendar and even runs a weekly community kitchen for us people who are having difficulty feeding their children, they get meals on a weekly basis if they sign up for them. Another one focuses on safety, wellness, and mutual care. I love that so much because they will run up on your house, baby. If you ain't checked in for a while, they coming to see about you. I love that. Another just released a jam-packed Black History Month calendar and it's lit. All of these groups serve real needs. And we also have to be honest about what we bring with us. Most of the world lives multi-generationally. Community is woven into daily life, especially here in Mexico. You see a lot of households that have multi-generational families living in them. But as Black Americans, our family systems were violently dismantled again and again through slavery and other means that left us with survival patterns that include but are not limited to separation, competition, distrust, over individualism, power struggles within community spaces. And that energy didn't come from nowhere, but it kept us alive. But it doesn't have to lead us anymore. So, since I've been here, there's been some discourse within these groups and among different groups and different people. And while conflict isn't unique to us, what matters is whether we're willing to understand the why beneath our reactions. If the goal is healing, then moving away from inherited survival energy, figuratively and sometimes literally, has to be intentional. Living internationally doesn't just ask us to respect our cultures, it asks us to confront what our own culture did to us. So here's what I want to place gently on your lap. Whether you're living internationally, dreaming about leaving, are still very much rooted where you are, ask yourself this: what parts of my identity feel like home? And what parts feel like armor? Because not everything we carry is culture. Mhm. Some of it is protection we learned when we didn't have other options. And when we change environments, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, those protective patterns don't always dissolve on their own. Sometimes they follow us because we haven't brought them to awareness. So the question isn't, where am I going? The question is, what am I bringing with me? What's in my suitcase? I also want to offer you a reflection to sit with this week. You don't need to answer it right away. Just notice what comes up in your body when you hear it. Where in my life am I holding on to something because it's familiar and not because it's nourishing? And if you feel resistance with this reflection, then good. Resistance is information too. Sometimes healing feels like a loss before it feels like relief. Sometimes peace feels boring before it feels safe. And sometimes the body clings to what hurt it because at least it knows how to survive there. Ask me how I know. Woo! So if you're in a season of transition, don't rush yourself into doing it right. Just be honest about what's ready to be released and what still needs compassion, because unlearning is not punishment, it's permission. Leaving America without bringing us trauma doesn't mean cutting yourself off from where you come from. It means not to let inherited wounds dictate where you're going. It means honoring your culture and interrogating the parts of it that were shaped by survival instead of love. It means allowing yourself to be changed, not erased, by new soil, new rhythms, and new ways of being. And wherever you are in the world right now, that work can begin. I'm Dr. Mal. I'll see you in 2 weeks for another Monday moment with Dr. Mal. So until then, love and peace to all of you. Have the best week.
Thank you for tuning in for a Monday Moment with Dr. Mal, now proudly a part of the Alive Podcast Network. You can find this show on the Live Podcast Network website and app, and you can find this podcast streaming across your favorite podcast streaming platforms. If you love to have the visual, you can tune into my YouTube channel, When Mallory Lives, to see this show and catch up on all my shows from the beginning.